Hello everyone and welcome to a Doctor Who-tastic episode of Lesbian Talk. This is episode 38. This really should have been episode 26.
I thought you were going to say 13 for a while.
Or 50 or something. Oh well. 38's not mythic at all. But anyway, first half of the show, we're going to talk about an adventure in time and space, but before we get to that, we had a word from last week.
It was sprawl.
Many things sprawl.
Like sprawling grains of wheat. No. Purple fruiting mountains and grains of America. The beautiful.
I sprawl.
You're sprawling right now? In front of all these people?
Oh, definitely. Because I'm giant and terrible and stuff.
So you're like sprawled? But I know how your room is. You have no room to sprawl. It's all things on the floor and your DVDs.
This is true. There's a lot of things on the floor and DVDs.
You could technically make, a chair out of your DVDs. Not one to sit in, but, you could, make, a huge chair.
A replica. Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
Although, right now, I'm sort of... I am sitting at the desk with 3 of my action figures, playing with them, because I was watching Doctor Who-related stuff, so I have my 3 latest action figures I bought. I have Colin Baker with a blue cape, and Ace, and Matt Smith with a beard.
I was really sad that Colin Baker wasn't involved. I mean, his image was involved, certainly, and he got credited as the Doctor at the end, but...
And he did some voiceover as well.
Yeah, but...
That's as far as they're going to go. You know, Tom Baker only got in... Oh, well, sorry, we wait for that for the second half of the show. We're talking about that. But, sprawling. I have a little bit of anti-sprawling to talk about.
Anti-sprawling? What does that even mean?
It's married to Uncle Sprawling.
Why'd you stop that?
Last week I was over at Teddy's and I went and sold a bunch of DVDs and they were all like, "Oh, we'll give you £50 worth of in-store credit or £25 of in cash." And I was like, "Oh no."
That's pretty good, actually. You can't really use DVDs are worth nearly nothing.
This is true, but I had a lot of DVDs. But so my plan then was, Colin has about £200 on his account in this store, so that's Teddy. So, what if I say, I'll take in-store credit, put it on his in-store credit, but at the same time buy a video game from them at the same time for £25, meaning that they get I get £25 in-store credit plus a video game, and then I get the £25 off Colin, so I win both ways.
Ooh.
And I did it when he was annoyed because I didn't ask his consent, and now he has about £250 worth of store credit on that, and he doesn't know when he's going to use it all. But, so I ended up with a copy.
Can't you, sell it to one of his friends or something?
I don't know. But I ended up with a copy of the Deadpool game. And,
I heard about that.
Yeah, Yahtzee did a video about it. And I did a bunch of editing earlier in the week because I figured, okay, I'll, set aside a day or two where I can, do it and finish it. And, I was thinking it would take me a similar length as, say, the Batman games or the Ghostbusters game or the Saints Row games, which is, I don't play constant, but it takes me a day and a half maybe. But this one, I finished it in about 8 hours. So I was like, the anti-sprawling, this is much smaller than I expected. It's a bit annoying.
Was that you go out and you see a trailer for a movie, like, oh, that looks so amazing, I can't wait till it comes out. It's going to be the biggest hit ever. And then you go see it, and it's really not the biggest hit ever. In fact, it kind of bombs.
This one, I don't know if it's hit or bomb or whatever. The game was fine. It was just much smaller, much shorter than I expected. It was quite funny at meta at places. Because the character Deadpool realizes that he's in a comic book, so in the video game he realizes he's in a video game. So they do all sorts of amusing things, like the character you're playing as, he has an idea, so he runs off, and then he walks back and tells the camera to follow him and all, and he insults you for playing badly whenever he gets hit a lot and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that would give me a complex.
I found it quite amusing. They had sections turned into an 8-bit move into an 8-bit area, or there was this section which was like a shooting game from a carnival game. There was this part that was like a parody of Metal Gear Solid and stuff. It was quite silly. It was a little bit similar to what the Saints Row games do occasionally, but with superheroes. I did get to slap Wolverine a lot, which was good. You slap him once, and then it lets you keep slapping him until you get an achievement for slapping for about 5 minutes, and every single time you slap him, Deadpool says something, insulting to Wolverine.
I see.
Yeah, but
sounds like you enjoyed this an inordinate amount.
Well, slapping Wolverine is always fun. But anti-sprawling, I'm expecting something much bigger. We're just lucky that the shop didn't have a copy of Black Flag on the Xbox, because I would have bought it and then I would have been made a liar because I said I would play it at your house.
Dun dun dun. I haven't made much progress in that, though. I've been playing Eternal Sonata instead.
Are you enjoying Eternal Sonata?
I am, actually. I'm going to probably write a column for Nerdvice about it when I'm done.
Excellent. Well, I have a copy on the Xbox, and I played a bit of it, didn't play a mass amount, but I remember it was good, and I'm glad you enjoyed it as much.
Well, it's certainly pretty. I've been getting pretty farther in the plot, and for some reason it's one of those RPGs, and you can tell it's a JRPG because it doesn't like you. Like, you have this battle system, and that's cool, and then you go through a battle tutorial, like you do, but as your characters level up, eventually your party levels up, and each time, when you level up, things become easier for you, like your stats increase or something, or you learn a new magic spell. When you level up the party, the battle system gets worse. You used to have infinite, quote-unquote, tactical time for you to just stand around and think about what you're going to do before your character, if you make a move, you have only, 5 seconds to, move as far as you can or do things and stuff or whatever. So, first, you have infinite time to stand and think. And then you have only 3 seconds, and then you have 4 seconds to actually do your action. And so, the time that you have to make actions keeps getting shorter and shorter. And the last, because I read a walkthrough of it, the last battle level, or party level, so this battle system that you spent all this time memorizing, that if you can block when some things are attacking you, even if it's not your turn, you can use light or dark, depending on if you're standing in shadow or in light, your special abilities change, and then you can tap your special ability to access one or hold it down to access another. So after you've mastered all that, when you should be the most powerful in the game, when you're at your apex, then every turn, all the buttons randomly switch. And you have to be looking at the screen to see which button means what this time.
Yeah, I can see why that would be bothersome.
Yeah, I haven't even got there yet, but I'm already thinking, well, I don't want to level up too much, or that might happen to me. That kind of pretty much would render the game unplayable. Well, not unplayable, but very difficult.
Maybe you'll get used to it as time goes.
Hope so.
But enough talk of sprawling stuff. We have something that's equally sprawling to talk about.
Sprawl?
Oh, no, I saw a movie called Sprawl, and it wasn't very good. But
was it a horror movie?
Yes. Aren't they all?
I was about to be it kind of figures, I mean.
I'm thinking we could talk about Drew.
Drew?
Doctor Who.
Oh. I was like, I mean, I know a few guys named Drew. I didn't know you knew them, but that's alright.
I was referencing a sketch that was done by Mark Gatiss and David Volumes about 10 years ago. Christ, I'm a nerd.
Christ, you're old. I mean, I love you, dear.
Oh, they were, it was basically a sketch about how Doctor Who was pitched and created and all, and it was rather funny until it was needlessly insulting to, Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, and Peter Davison. Oh. Well, not Peter Davison, but Sylvester McCoy and Colin Baker. It was not very nice. But, first we're going to talk about An Adventure in Space and Time, which aired a couple of days ago, our time, and it details the first days of Doctor Who, how the show came to be, and how Hartnell was cast, how he was really, really good, and he loved the role, and, lived it as much as he could, and then was finally, like Colin Baker, he was unceremoniously dropped from the role against his wishes. But
it was in color.
This is true.
So it's always weird to see, times, quote-unquote, the past in color. It's the 1960s, but in color, as it probably actually occurred.
Yeah. They even got the color of the TARDIS console right, because the TARDIS was, William Hartnell's TARDIS was, the console was very, very, very pale green, because one of the things about filming for black and white is that you have to use color as a way to accentuate or or anti-accentuate, whatever the word is, for black and white. A pure white console would have looked really glaring in the strong studio lights, so they painted it a pale green, knowing that at least a little bit of the glare would be off, but it would still look white on screen. The lighting for black and white was a real art at the time, and it's fascinating to look at. How much did you know about the opening days of Doctor Who?
Anything I know, it's because you told me.
So, given that's not an area I spend a massive amount of time lecturing you on, probably not very much.
Yes.
Fair enough. So, then I'm going to list a couple of things, and you can tell me how shocked or not shocked you were about them.
Okay.
That Doctor Who was the concept was come up with by a Canadian.
Yeah, I thought he was supposed to be American until the end. They're like, so-and-so went back to Canada. And I was like, oh, I thought he was supposed to be American. Well, there you go.
Sidney Newman. He created a bunch of stuff. He was sort of a legend in British TV for a while. The first episode of Doctor Who was directed by a gay Indian.
I didn't know he was gay.
I'm fairly sure Waris Hussein's gay. Maybe I'm wrong. He was a little bit camp, though.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that part. I thought that that's why she was gonna ask him to stay, and she'd be like, I've got a crush on you, and he'd be like, I've been wanting you to say that the whole time.
But then she's like, I gotta leave you, I gotta invent Adam Adamant. Dun, dun, dun. Because Verity Lambert, that's what she did when she left Doctor Who.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I really wish they got a cameo where there was this upper BBC person's like, Verity, I want to talk to you about this new television show I've got an idea for, and the guy's played by Gerald Harper, and I would have been like, ah!
You would have squeed.
Yes, I would have. I'm still shocked that, Gerald Harper has never turned up in Doctor Who. And if you don't know who Gerald Harper is, that's Adam Adamant.
I knew that.
Well, not you, honey. This is a conversation between us two and, whoever's listening.
The entire studio audience. Another thing that I noticed, I remarked on Twitter, I said the 1960s, when an act of parliament commanded that all subjects over the age of 14 should smoke. I'm sorry, chain smoke.
Well, it wasn't that much different in America in the 60s.
Yeah, I know, it's just weird. Because especially people in our generation, you grew up hearing, tobacco is wacko and all this other kind of stuff. And
yeah, the cultural shift happened in... My example for the cultural shift when it comes to smoking in the West is if you look at the two Ghostbusters movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ghostbusters 1, everyone's smoking all the time. Ghostbusters 2, no one smokes. Made 1984, 1989, you can see the cultural change has happened. Adventure in Space and Time was very well done. It was probably the best Who-related thing I have seen Mark Gatiss write.
It was very nice. It was very touching, and I liked how they handled the assassination of the president. At the same time, he's reading out the first script for the Daleks.
Well, what's really weird is I can definitely see someone watching that and thinking that they fictionalized this thing about, putting the show on again because of the presidential assassination and trying to connect Doctor Who with Kennedy and stuff, but that shit really did happen. The show... I know you know. I'm just...
You're telling the audience, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's... Some of the weirder things on An Adventure in Space and Time did happen, like William Hartnell, basically performing as the Doctor whenever he came across a child who recognized him as the Doctor, and Hartnell had a massive amount of flaws. He
was old and crotchety.
He was old and crotchety. He was, according to sources, he was racist, sexist, homophobic. Though to be perfectly fair, he was born in the 1910-ish, so it would have been an achievement if he wasn't any of those things.
Right.
But at the same time, he really did believe in the show, and he tried to live the character for the children. It was a little bit like how Mr. Rogers in America, like Fred Rogers was always in character whenever he was anywhere a child could see him.
Well, he was just kind of like that all the time, I'm led to believe. He was just a really nice person.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, he's one of the kind of people that you think it would turn up that, he had a secret affair, or he said something nasty. No one's ever come up with anything really horrible that Fred Rogers has ever done. And I think that's awesome.
That's like all of the UK's version of that have all been either arrested or have been discovered for various forms of abuse, or they have been discovered to have done that posthumously. Like the most recent one was the arrest of Rolf Harris. And it's just Jesus Christ.
What are you guys up to over there?
I got the feeling that it was a mixture. It was a mixture of people with, in positions of power with vulnerable people, and it was the fact a lot of this happened in the 60s. So I'm guessing sexual liberation had a bit to do with it. So you had a mixture of more liberated sexuality. At the same time, you had older people who were willing to take advantage of that.
Point.
And people who hadn't quite realized the level of which it's okay. And mixed with sexism all happening. Maybe it was a melting pot of shit that happened at once. But,
I like that David Tennant's line that he's known for, "I don't want to go," actually was poignant and emotional in this, rather than being whiny.
I tweeted out about that. I was like, "God damn you, Adventure in Space and Time, for making me feel actual emotion about I don't want to go in a Doctor Who context."
I felt sad for him. Well, he was sick though. So.
Yeah, he apart from his heart problems, he also had a degenerative brain condition. I don't know what it is though.
Mm.
By the time 10 years later, when the Three Doctors happened, he was asked if he wanted to take part, and he was like, "Of course I'll take part. I would be delighted." He was really, really happy.
And apparently his wife was like, "No, you don't."
Well, they got writing the script, and they were going to give the first Doctor this big part in it, equally with the other two, but then his wife called in and said, "You must have caught him on one of his good days, because, he is not like that every day. And, he will not be able to remember lines and things." Mm. So that's why he was, in the end, basically, they filmed him in the studio, and they used idiot boards. And I don't use the term idiot board as an insult, it's just a British term for, teleprompter. Yeah. Overall, Adventure Space and Time, if you're interested in Doctor Who, it's really, really good. It's really interesting. It's powerful at parts, and just a bit sad that they didn't get to film everything they wanted to film.
So, what was your opinion about, and again, you guys, spoilers, this episode is going to be called The Day of the Spoiler, so you'll have to have known that from the title, but how did you feel about the bit at the end with Matt Smith? Because I thought it was neat, but I could see you being like, "Joe, there's New Who in my classic."
Well, it's not really classic Who. It's
in my drama about classic Who. Oh.
Yes. I got what they were trying to do, and honestly, I was more distracted by Rhys Shearsmith's terrible Patrick Troughton.
Was he? Well, he wasn't really that young, was he?
Patrick Troughton was 47, 48, something like that.
Yeah, that guy looked like he was in his mid-30s.
Rhys Shearsmith is about 40, but he looks younger than he is. And weirdly, Rhys Shearsmith is my favourite member of the League of Gentlemen, who are a British comedy team that I like, that Mark Gatiss is a member of, and he quite often plays older. But they didn't even try to make him up to look like Patrick Troughton, which was just really distracting. They just put a bad wig on him. They should have got Fraser Hines or Sylvester McCoy to play the part. It would have been less distracting. I understood why they were going for it. But I thought of a better way that they could have set it up, because they were trying to show that Hartnell was looking in and he was seeing that there was going to be future in the show and it was going to go on, and he was happy about that. If only they had Hartnell looking at Troughton, and then in the background he saw Matt Smith, and then maybe other people dressed as the other Doctors,
Yeah, I was wondering if they were going to pan out and there'd be all the rest, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, apparently the Matt Smith thing was apparently a last minute sort of addition, and Mark Gatiss said they tried to film it in such a way that every single time the special is aired, they can edit it and insert the current Doctor into it. So I'm guessing they use green screen and stuff, which is going to be pretty amusing. I want to see if they actually do that in future.
That'd be cool. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was good. But you know what it made me wish? It made me wish that I'd been alive during the early days of television. I mean, when anything went, where you built, a spool of thread, as a model for something. I mean, wouldn't that have been awesome?
It would have been, but remember, it's going to have a lot of the negative elements as well. You're going to have the rampant
people died of stuff back then.
Yeah, every era has its good and bad stuff. And another bad thing is that the 60s, it was a lot harder to get into media than it is now. Remember, we have more technology in our computers than they had to do the entire show with.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, like, so I don't know if you guys had this, but like a lot of, especially back in the day, America had like local stations.
We have a couple of local stations over here.
So, I mean, there's not a lot of them anymore. It's like not really a thing. I mean, there's still like the school access channel that occasionally, like, the local high school will broadcast their concerts on, or they'll show if there's been a storm, what schools have closed. But like, so I guess in America it was just easy. You could just knock something up and put it on your local, your local channel. Like if you wanted to make a kids, show or something, and it would be like shown in like, W57 Cleveland,
Yeah, that's how MSG3K started off.
Yeah. So you guys didn't have that. You guys, everything had to go through the BBC and be like official and real.
Well, BBC, even as far back, at 63, there wasn't just the BBC, because Sidney Newman had come over from ITV.
Oh yeah, he said, remember the thing I did for ITV, and I was like, I didn't know ITV existed back then.
Well, that's the third channel in the UK. You got BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, and then Channel 4 started in the 80s, and Channel 5 started in the 90s. These are all terrestrial channels, and since then there's a lot more like digital channels. I think there's like 15 digital BBC channels or whatever. But ITV, because it was commercial, it was seen as hipper and sexier, because they had
sexy capitalism.
Well, they had to play to the lowest common denominator. So that's what sort of thing they would do. Well, BBC could afford, because it didn't need to have advertisers, it could afford to be highbrow.
Point.
Which is one of the
wonderful... You're going to watch whatever we tell you to. Welcome to the BBC.
Yeah, the BBC, it's one of the wonderful things about the BBC. It is created, and it's part of its rule is that it has to provide TV shows for everyone. So you've got to have, a lot of things that would not have a space on regular TV stations in the UK. They have a space in the BBC. Like even though I hate the show and I think it's terrible, Songs of Praise, which is basically a Church of England sort of 700 club, but very, very, very light British Christianity church show for like half an hour a week.
So it's like Mass, like, because we have channels that play Mass for people who can't go out because they're old or sick or something.
Yeah, they're like, today's service comes from this church, and it's a bunch of people, in their 50s, and they're you can tell they're thinking about cucumber sandwiches more than Jesus and stuff, because it's Church of England, and God is, God is not expected to be part of your service. However, being polite is.
See, I think that's the difference between British Christianity, well, okay, some parts of it, and American Christianity, is because, like, you have churches like that. Yeah, you would find them in like white Anglo-Saxon Protestant neighborhoods, like in New England and stuff like that, where, like, if anybody got up and started talking about Jesus, everybody would be like, what? What are you talking about Jesus for? This is church. Like, that's what I mean when I say, oh, Christmas isn't secular, or Christmas isn't religious. What are you talking about? Christmas hasn't been religious in a long time.
But yeah, this is, but that sort of show, imagine trying to broadcast an Episcopalian service every single week. That would not happen on a mainstream American TV channel.
No.
While it happens in the UK, because the BBC, by law, has to broadcast stuff for everyone. Of course,
so there's like gay shows too?
Well, they have shows about homosexuality. No, there are shows which have like stuff about homosexuality and stuff. They don't have a show saying this gay show is for the gays. This show is for the Jews.
Gay show. I want to watch the gay show.
I would. That would be amusing. But they have to make sure that they have at least some show that can be enjoyed by other people. So
it's too bad that we already have a title for this week. Otherwise, I totally would have. It's the gay show.
I thought that's a subtitle.
And, no, because then the blip address will be too long.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the really wonderful things about the BBC, and I fucking love the BBC. I would much rather pay the 120, whatever it is, pounds a year that you gotta pay, rather than have to deal with advertising and lowest common denominator shit.
Well, do you know what? When we had a BBC America on today, and they say Doctor Who 50th anniversary is brought to you commercial 3 from BBC America. This made possible by AT&T. And then they played an AT&T commercial. And my mom was like, what? And I'm like, well, they don't have commercials in the BBC. So I guess AT&T bought the right to say it's being shown in America commercial free.
Something like that, probably. I don't know how. I know BBC America is sort of semi-detached from the BBC itself. It's the BBC, rather controversially, about 5 years ago, they started actually playing adverts for their own shows, which to this day irritates me. It's like we're supposed to watch an advert free, and I don't care if it's a trailer for your stuff. That's an advert, but they do it now, and it's their excuse is that they need to make enough people know that it's going to happen and the show's going to happen, so enough people will be able to see it. And I suppose you might be able to make that argument, but it annoys me.
I think that's fun. I mean, well, because back in the day, and I only know this because I found a wiki article about it. When PBS would buy stuff on the cheap from BBC, and it was actually always shown as being produced by Lionheart, which was the branding that BBC used in America.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's suitably British.
Suitably British. Oh, you were asking about Blue Peter last week. That was.
It still sounds like the answer to a dirty joke.
It does, but it wouldn't have lasted on a commercial thing. But I am currently holding my action figure of Ace, the Seventh Doctor companion, and on her bomber jacket, she has a Blue Peter badge, which was given out to contest winners or people who made something for the show or whatever. And I recall from one of the documentaries on the making of the show that the Blue Peter actually did some investigations to find out if Ace had the right to wear a Blue Peter badge, because apparently this can cause minor controversy if you wear a badge and you didn't actually win it yourself. But Sophie Aldred did in fact win 2 separate Blue Peter badges, so they decided that Ace could wear one.
So Blue Peter is kind of like interactive Sesame Street?
It's a bit like Sesame Street. You could send stuff in. There wasn't any Muppets though, but they had real life dogs and cats and things. But they loved Doctor Who.
Do you know what Phil Margado told me?
Hmm?
Well, okay, the other day on Twitter, that I didn't realize this. This ties into the early days of television. I didn't realize that a lot of different, I think pretty much like all of the countries that Sesame Street was syndicated to have their own local casts. Like I knew that Israel did because one week they did Shalom Sesame Street, and we all got to watch. Well, in English anyway, the Israeli version, and I knew that they had their own cast, but I didn't realize that a lot of the more wealthy countries wouldn't just dub it; they had their own Muppets.
Well, we from my recollection over here, we use the American dubbing and everything because it's cheaper. So we would just get full episodes, and I was trying to work out when I was a child, trying to work out where Sesame Street was.
Well, it's supposed to be in New York City.
Yeah, I didn't know that until you mentioned that whenever you mentioned that in your video on Blip about Mr. Hooper.
Yeah. It's meant to be New York City. This stuff's made in New York City. New York City.
Oh no, they're going to boil Mr. Hooper alive like a cowboy.
No.
For making chili.
Well, he wasn't always boiled alive. Like in one of the now you'd have to look this up on YouTube because this could be my memory being incorrect, but one of the commercials, I swear they said New York City, boys better get a rope, implying that they were going to lynch this guy. But like I said, you have to look that up because I could just be wrong.
And that's the paste picante
salsa
sauce. Yeah, we've been talking about this because of something that's going up in about a month, but But I think we have enough time for a trivia fact now, do we? Because this is a Doctor Who-tastic episode.
Yes, we're actually going to be playing with stuff a little bit differently because we're going to have a super secret special guest whenever the super secret special guest can get on Skype. And so we're going to have a major, big, long talk time about what has just aired, the 50th anniversary. So we're going to skip the story for the store. I know, everyone's upset, but I can do a story for the store. There was a guy came in and bought something, and then he left. The end. So anyway, we're going to be doing things a little bit different, but I'm working like another 20 hours this week, so I'm sure something crazy will happen at the store for me to talk about. But we can't leave him out, because otherwise he will come and pinch my toes in the night. So we do have a trivia question, and Giovanni, are you with us today?
Yeah, boss. Sorry, I had to click all the way up the stairs. I was watching BBC America.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
Don't see they're showing after parties with other people celebrating.
So you were sitting downstairs watching other people celebrating?
Yeah, I was.
Celebrate good times, come on, do.
Yeah, that was Really disconcertingly weird, actually. So anyway, of course we're going to have a Doctor Who trivia fact because, well, duh. So, did you know that many years ago, back in the Tom Baker era of Doctor Who, there was a certain serendipity? It's true. Stephen Moffat spent hours in the queue for Baker's autograph. As it so happens, David Tennant was also in the same queue on the exact same day. Talk about coincidences.
That's just amazing. Just think what sort of kids might be queuing up to get Matt Smith's autograph, and then in 50 years' time, one of them will be like a really bad doctor, and another one will be a semi-bad writer.
See, I don't think that there needs to be a woman doctor. I think there needs to be a lobster doctor. That would be great. Dr. Claw. Get it? Get it? It's Dr.
I'll catch you next time, Master.
Yeah, that'd be great. So anyway, you guys, I'm going to go out into town because I have a life. I do. But I'll see you all next week.
Aw, thank you.
So, the first part I lied, and I said we'd have a very special guest. But we actually have two very special guests with us to discuss.
Oh, come on. Nash is special, but Welshy isn't.
Hey! No one will ever be our special guest if you treat them that way.
I was in the special classes. Does that count?
Yeah.
Well, that count as being special? Actually, I don't know if I exist anymore. There was a picture being put up of Welshy 2000 and something to 2013. So technically, am I dead now?
Yes, you are.
Because I don't want to go.
You regenerated into an exact...
I can't be angry. I can't mock that thing anymore. Not after Adventure in Space and Time. I can't mock it anymore because now I always think of Hartnell and it breaks my heart.
You can't mock it now because they just mocked it themselves in Day of the Doctor.
Yes, indeed they did. So let's...
It's bloody brilliant.
let's set the cat among the pigeons with Day of the Doctor. Matt, you saw it in the cinema.
I saw it in cinema in 3D.
What would you see it Nash, just regular broadcast or iPlayer?
Yeah, I was watching on BBC iPlayer. But I will say I was watching it on a 50-inch screen with 5.1 surround, so not that bad.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, I think I saw the worst quality copy then. I have just on my regular PC.
We watched it on BBC America.
It was... Like I mentioned in my tweets of it, I got comments, I got nice things to say, I got complaints as well. But it's New Who, I'm always going to have complaints.
Oh, and as we told you at the beginning of the episode, spoilers, you were warned.
My thing with it is nothing. There's nothing. This is 50 years. There was nothing that could satisfy everybody. And, just like it would be impossible. It's like it's the finale of Lost. You can't satisfy everybody.
I don't think this was a matter of satisfying. I think this was, for me, watching the whole thing. It felt something was off.
Like.
I'm purely speculating here, all right? I've got nothing to prove this, but I watched John Hurt, and I listened to his dialogue and his acting and his behavior, and the way I think the audience was supposed to react to him, and everything in me was screaming, this was written for Eccleston.
I'm pretty sure it was, too. But he shunned the role, didn't he? That is the thing. He just didn't want to do it, and I don't think he ever really wanted to embrace. He's never embraced the fandom, has he? Ever?
Well, apparently he's really nice to kids who recognize him or whatever. But he never comes back to anything, which is one of the reasons it was stupid for RTD to cast him in the first place.
Well, did he come in knowing that he said, "All right, I'm one season and I'm out"?
It's conflicting reports on that.
There's never been an agreed report. Originally, what I've heard is that they, honest to God, didn't expect to get a second series. So he had to come back to film the regeneration. But, I mean, they couldn't have anticipated it becoming the success it was. So, yeah, I think they only did commission one series.
Yeah, they only did.
That's why they only signed him for one. It's like with Tennant, they signed him into a 3-year contract. The same with Matt, he was signed to a 3-year contract. Eccleston was only ever signed to one because they didn't expect to get a second series.
Yeah, that's true. And this is going to really drive at least two of you mad. I, at one point, knew exactly what had happened with Eccleston because a friend of mine is also friends with one of the writers on New Who from the first season, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was.
What's your friend's name?
No, what happened with
what the problem?
Oh, right.
And it's, I don't want to, like, be all just like, hey, friend of mine, could you ask, your my famous friend about, for this details just so I can mention it on a podcast or something? And so.
Just don't say it like that.
I will say, since I tweeted my opinions about it, I've lost like 10 followers.
Oh, snap.
Oh my god.
That's concerning me, because I'm watching everybody on Twitter react to this, and they're all like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever, this is the greatest episode of Doctor Who ever, oh my god, this was the... And I'm like...
It wasn't the greatest episode of Doctor Who ever, because it was impossible to be that. There was no way it could have been that. I just wanted a fun celebration, and I got that. That's why I was satisfied. I was satisfied with that.
My mom cried.
Your mum cried?
She did at the end when Tom Baker was there. She cried.
My friend.
How big of an irony was that?
I love that.
Because if you guys don't know what we're talking about, the Five Doctors, the 20th anniversary, I think it was 20th, right?
20th.
Hold on, I've got the DVD in front of me.
20th, it was 3 Doctors was 10, 5 Doctors was 20, and then the 30th was Dimensions in Time.
Are you sure? Baker, I've got the DVD in front of me here says the 25th anniversary edition of 5 Doctors.
That was 25 years after the 5 Doctors.
Yeah.
So okay, 45. Cool. That was 5 years ago.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah. What happened was Baker had just left the role not that long ago, and he didn't want to come back, especially when
he did, and then he pulled out at the last minute.
Well, it was he also. I'm going on various reports, especially my main source is the time travel. What is it? A history of time travel. There's a website that's got a very, very, very comprehensive background on all the old series and new series. It's really interesting to read. It said that Baker, when he found out his role was not going to be the main role, that's when he kind of pulled away. So you had the 5 Doctors.
Only 4.
Well, I guess you could say 3.5, technically.
Well, you can't blame Hartnell for that.
Can't blame Hartnell, yeah, he kind of...
I'm sorry, but he died.
Why didn't you come back from the dead?
And the fact that Tom Baker was played, they used footage from Shada, so if you weren't in the know, you might think that they filmed that specially and he just had a small part or whatever.
Yeah, but...
And unlike the other Doctors, he didn't look like he'd aged ridiculously.
Yeah.
Because it was a year before he aged ridiculously before his last season.
Yeah.
And Tom's had a big turnaround in regards to the series in the past few years. I mean, first he agreed to Big Finish.
Yeah.
Well, as Katie Manning said, Tom is the only man that she's ever come across who gets more sane with age.
Which is scary because he's still utterly insane. And he's brilliant with it. He hosted there's a thing in this country called Have I Got News For You, and he hosted one of the episodes of it, and he just was scarily off his head.
Oh, but shame on him for spoiling it. The bastard.
I'm just wondering, he did spoil that he was going to be in it, but, and he probably had signed like a non-disclosure agreement or something and he didn't care, but I'm just wondering, what are they going to do to Tom Baker? It's like, you're going to invite me.
Yeah.
You're not going to invite me back for the 60th anniversary. I intend to be dead by then.
You keep doing this. You keep insinuating people are going to die. It's not polite.
Tom is 80. He is likely not going to be. He's not going to be in the 60th.
It's likely, yes.
But I can see Tom threatening the BBC, saying, "You're not going to invite me back when I plan to be dead." I can see him saying that. Plus, he's going to get him for there must be some sort of contract law or something he's broken, but can you imagine the PR disaster?
Yes, he's the Spike Milligan, not Spike Milligan, Spike Milligan, I think that was his name. He's basically at today where he just doesn't care. He'll go on TV shows and he'll say whatever he wants and he doesn't care.
I wish I hadn't known.
I didn't know. I avoided.
You didn't? Oh, really? Nice. Because I very much avoided mentioning anything on Twitter about it. Except to call him out to say you bastard, but
when he came, I was in the cinema with my friend Rachel, and when he came out, when you just heard his voice, she grabbed my arm so tightly, it hurt. And then she whispered quietly under her breath, it's Tom Baker!
But I want to know, was Tom Baker playing himself? Was he playing the Doctor? Was he playing another character?
It's Moffat, so we'll never know.
Do you want me to get super geeky on this? Because I can.
Go for it.
We have set a precedent on this one in Time Crash. Because we set that when the time differential was shorted out, which made Peter Davison's Doctor appear older.
Yeah.
So maybe, possibly, you know.
If it was 4, then they would have given him the scarf.
Yeah, but
Why did they give that science girl the scarf? Oh yes, that's right. Oh my God, you're right. She's right. I would love to retire and be a curator. Yeah, he did. Oh my God, I see that. That is actually really clever. I like that.
I wish that I had realized that Science Girl was actually What's-Her-Face's sister, because I spent the entire episode thinking that she was her daughter. And I feel kind of bad about that now.
Who's What's-Her-Face?
Well, no, because, I thought that, she had this whole idol worship thing about the Doctor, and so I figured naturally that she was the head of Unit's daughter. But then when the Zygon was like, oh, your sister, the blonde, is better, and she was like, yeah, I know, right? I was like, oh, they're sisters. Oh,
no. That the Science Girl isn't related to the head of Unit is the Brigadier's daughter.
Okay, I knew that she was the Brigadier's daughter.
It was I think it was a random
confused.
thing.
Yeah, okay.
I think that was just a random thing.
Yeah, we never saw her hot sister.
I don't understand why the scarf, which is why she had the scarf. I kind of get it, but it just seems a little, it was a little weird.
She's a huge fan of the Doctor, and probably her family knew Tom Baker's Doctor. Boom! There you go. Instant explanation. Let's move on.
Part of it was it was obviously a reference to the fans. It was obviously a nod to the fandom and whatnot. But I just don't quite understand how it fit in what it was trying to say,
Well, just that she was a fan of the 4th incarnation. I mean, I'm guessing her sister, the blonde one, who was obviously devastatingly intelligent, was a big fan of the 6th.
Oh, no. I'm talking about what I'm talking about in the narrative sense.
Is she meant to be a companion's younger sister?
No, don't think so.
Okay.
No.
I'm just talking about what she represents, because I think there was a lot of that going on. I think they were trying to talk about, or at least address the show in a bigger sense, in the anniversary sense,
Yeah. What did you think of the let's say the double act between? Because I love the double act between 2 and 3. So what did you think of the double act between Tennant and Smith?
They were too friendly.
Go fuck David Tennant.
They were like brothers who were a year apart, and they fight about everything. That's what I think of.
They were too friendly with each other. I miss Patrick and John.
And they're too similar.
They're the benchmark. But I did like how, just because, John Hurt obviously being the oldest man in the room is actually playing the youngest character in it. I like that. But I also liked how he was almost a bridge as well from the gruff and grumpy sort of Doctor. And he was seeing what he would become. He was seeing these young men who were like saying all these things, and he even said himself, when they did the Geronimo Alonzi bit, he just, for God's sake.
I think John Hurt's character was my biggest problem with the whole thing.
I really wish John Hurt's part had been played by one of the older Doctors, so his lines could have been an old school Doctor critiquing of New Who.
Yeah.
Like if it was Sylvester McCoy or even Paul McGann.
Yeah, Paul would. Even if they couldn't get Eccleston, Paul should have. It would have made perfect sense to have Paul in there.
Yeah,
is
but
that going on the Big Finish story arc?
That doesn't matter. It's
because it's kind of because Night of the Doctor's kind of made a lot of the canon now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Doctor Who's Bring Your Own Canon.
Yeah, kind of. But
if they had Paul McGann, I was really sad with the whole John Hurt thing simply because I did not want to see Paul McGann regenerate. I wanted them to leave his regeneration undone so that at some point, like in even 20 years' time, you could have Paul McGann turning up as the 8th Doctor really old. You could have turned him into Hartnell.
Oh, yeah.
Nearly.
Yeah.
And they could have done multi-Doctor stories without the age being a problem.
Yeah.
They pissed that away.
I did not have, as an audience member, and considering this was supposed to be the anniversary, this was the big thing for all of us who loved the show, I didn't have an emotional connection to John Hurt's character. I mean, they said, well, he's the Doctor. And I'm like, I never met this guy before. I saw him for what, 5 minutes last year? Or a few months ago? Like 5 minutes? And I don't really have, I don't know him. I don't know his eccentricities. I don't know I have no connection to him, so I don't feel anything, and he feels out of place.
Well, actually, I preferred him in character-wise to 11 or 10, because 11 to me started off as the love child between 2 and 6, and then later on became a zanier David Tennant. And it's 10 and 11, they were both quite irritating to me, and they were very similar. While John Hurt the character was a breath of fresh air for me, which I really did like. I just wish he was an actual Doctor and not a guy that Moffat introduced so he could have Capaldi be the first of a new generation set.
Yeah, it's just I didn't feel anything. I as a character in the story, he was shoehorned. It was forced, and I had no investment in him, so I really didn't care what was going to happen to him. I didn't care about his. And the other thing was, he'd been built up with so much menace.
Like,
and so
I've done
much
these things, and they're terrible. And I was like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, I mean, did you check Matt and David's reactions to him? It was like they were acting. They all of their reactions toward the War Doctor was all, oh my God, he's this horrible creature. How could he have done this? And apparently all he did, and I say all he did was, end the war by killing both sides.
By committing mass genocide.
But in getting to, you see the character getting to that point, he does it very reluctantly. He does it, in a way that's like, I hate having to do this. I want to count all the children. He's not that horrible a creature that he's, the reactions don't warrant it. And it just threw everything off for me.
Yeah, based on the reactions.
They're looking at themselves. And, in terms of Tennant's Doctor, he's looking at that and, he's getting all that angst, which Tennant always carried around with him. Eccleston had it and Tennant had it too. Matt's Doctor, not so much. And for Matt's Doctor, it's the reminder. It's the reminder of everything that he did. So they're not someone who's looking at him in disgust. They're looking at them. They're looking at them.
You're saying everything he did. It seems he only did the one thing, and
we
it's
don't
a
know
pretty
that. He
big
might have been
thing.
like running around slaughtering people off camera.
We didn't get that. We didn't get that from the story. I mean, from the way
fighting in the war for a very long time.
But from the way that character was portrayed, he was very gentle and he was very compassionate and kind and reluctant about the whole war thing, and it didn't fit.
He did kill a lot of Daleks in that one bit.
Yeah, but who doesn't kill a lot of Daleks? I mean, really.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
It's true, Troughton killed thousands of Ice Warriors in the Seeds of Death.
Yes, but obviously with the whole new era of Doctor who never holds a gun, because if he holds a gun, oh my God.
Because these guys are silly and don't know anything about the show.
Those people.
The way they were looking at John Hurt, it did make it sound as though he'd be the Doctor from Full Fathom 5, The Big Finish.
Right.
And honestly, I really wish he was, because I love that Doctor. I want him to come back.
David Warner's one?
Oh, no, that was Sympathy for the Devil. This is the evil Doctor, played with the villain from Robots of Death.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In the science base underneath the ocean.
I was listening to that in the supermarket, like a year ago, after I got it. And I was, like, in the middle of the aisle looking for something. And then when, like, she shot him, and then shot him again, I was like, oh my God. I, like, stopped dead, and the woman behind me was like, excuse me. I was like, oh, sorry.
We could do a whole thing about that episode. I have opinions on that, but
the thing that I was thinking about halfway through when I went to check Twitter is that really Billie Piper didn't need to be there. Like, her part could have been played by K9, and people would have been happier.
Well, no. I think the thing at the end there, the implication was, and this is why, again, I think this was meant for Eccleston. The implication was she was pretending to be the interface, but really she was Rose.
What?
She was Rose during that moment where she was connected to everything. The bad wolf.
Because she says herself in that moment, "I see everything," and she scatters. And space and time.
And the implication is that she actually used that to change things for the Doctor. That's why it's going different.
To keep my sanity, I'm gonna decide that she is basically looked at and saw that would be the Doctor's next companion, and so took that face for some reason.
You think so?
It's the typical Moffat sort of thing, isn't it? He addresses, he doesn't address it. He just gives you more questions.
Well, yeah. Because
speaking of, go ahead.
At the end, I was actually, do it, press the button, do it. At the timer, press the button. Oh, no one else speak. No more speeches, stop it. No, but see the children. No, stop it, just push the button. And I felt like a really bad person for that.
No, it's just regular Gallifreyan children. It's not like, Time Lords actually have children or anything, because they fucking loom.
No, but I said this, that I was concerned that it would be some kind of fairy tale. Oh, we fixed everything. The Time War never happened. All that character growth is gone. Ta-da.
Well, I'm glad they didn't do that. But carry on, Nash. You were just saying, speaking of
unanswered questions, what the fuck? We start like nothing happened at the end of last season.
I said that because my mom was like, I said, yeah, they were trapped in his timelines on Trenzalore. And then she's like, oh, I better go and meet the Doctor on my motorbike. Just saying.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Was there a season missing?
Yes, I know, right?
Actually, there was a season missing in the last 2 years because we've only getting 6 episodes a season. So 6 episodes a year. So yeah, we have been missing a season actually.
What? I don't I'm like, wait a minute. He jumped into his own timeline, which was incredibly a bad thing. Everyone was saying this is a big bad thing in bold italic letters. Bad thing. And what happened? How did he get out? What I was expecting, and that's maybe me going with expectations. I was expecting the beginning of this to be like, here's how the hell we get out of this big bad mess. No, we're just out of it.
Yeah, I thought it'd be this whole setup for the episode. You got the random Zygons everywhere. You got the hurt Doctor and everything. That's the perfect setup. So what I'm thinking is the Doctor got out of his time stream, ended up on Earth, lost the TARDIS, and then just decided to let the Silurian and the Sontaran, the comedy Sontaran, and the passable lesbian die.
Stallone, Strax is awesome.
Get rid of, let them all die on that remote planet, and then pick up his TARDIS in about 700 years later. So it's like, oh, they're dead. Thank for goodness for that.
No, there's another thing. What happened to him?
In the cinema, Strax actually did the introduction for the showing. He said, he basically said about how you can't talk. And this is what will happen if you talk, and you can't do this, and this is what will happen if you do this. And then Matt came in and came on screen, and he sort of introduced everything into the realm of 3D, and then he morphed into Tennant, and Tennant did fun of Matt's chin.
Okay.
Chinbot, he's called.
I still want to know what happened to the Great Intelligence, because...
Yeah!
Okay, good, it wasn't just me, because I said to Zara beforehand, I said, I don't want to make a fool of myself when we do the live part, but what happened to the Great Intelligence? Did I miss that?
Apparently I rewatched Name of the Doctor yesterday, and I get the everything they said was, you do this and you'll die. He's like, yes, I'll die, but I'll have my revenge. But then Clara went in and undid it, and so he died?
I'm guessing
not.
The Great Intelligence is dead until he's needed again for another story.
That's fair enough.
He's to invade the London Underground.
Yeah, and did anyone find it hilarious in the Name of the Doctor when the Great Intelligence was like, yes, Doctor, you have foiled me at every turn, even though we've only actually interacted about 5 times in the last ever. And, 2 of them happened in the 60s. He's acting as though he's the master or something.
Well, maybe he is. Maybe that's the twist.
Maybe he is, yeah.
Do we really want to look into what a clusterfuck this makes End of Time? As if it wasn't already a clusterfuck already.
We were watching all this great CGI, and I said to my mom, I guess this invalidates End of Time. That means the Master could still technically be alive. And she hasn't watched pretty much any of New Who. She goes, okay, honey, Okay.
Actually, I think they slightly addressed it. There was that line that said, the High Council is off doing something. He's like, well, the High Council's always doing their own bullshit. Fuck them. So
I'm thinking that it does. If it decanonizes End of Time, then I'm for that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
When the Master comes back, I hope he's played by John Hannah, because two Scottish guys who are middle-aged, thin, with curly hair, who are famous for swearing, would be wonderful to watch.
It would be.
Just imagine the outtakes.
I
liked that they brought Capaldi in.
That was
that again. That's another moment when Rachel squeezed my arm. Well, she hit my arm actually when in the middle of squeezing it, because that moment when it says, no sir, 13, and you just see his eyes.
No, right.
I love that moment. I'm sorry.
But and now here's the other question. And God damn it, Moffat, you made a big mess of this. Is he the 13th Doctor?
No, yes, he is the 13th Doctor now, isn't he?
Well, Moffat said that he counted the Metacrisis as a full regeneration, which is logically the only way to count it, really, because if you can have as many regenerations as you like by cutting off a body part and making sure it's near you when you die, therefore you could have infinite regenerations, which makes a mockery of the whole thing.
Right.
So logically, I was thinking that Capaldi would be the first in a new set, and Matt Smith would be the 13th one, because Stephen Moffat wants to do the last Doctor, let's get a new regeneration cycle type thing story before he...
Do you think that could possibly be then, the Christmas special could be him finding Gallifrey and getting a new cycle?
Quite probably, but I really would have preferred
Have you
that
been a
for
good little time, Lord? You could have some new generation for Christmas.
I really would have preferred that to be a season-long arc.
I'd be cool if this whole Finding Gallifrey thing played out like New Battlestar Galactica. Looking forward. No, okay, alright, go with me on this. Like, it's just this big story arc that's ongoing through several seasons. Kind of like a, Mysterious Seeds of Gold, but like science fiction.
There's the only thing I think about is it's Stephen Moffat, and he has trouble sort of like focusing on one thing for too long. The other thing is, I think Moffat's only got one season left on contract.
Okay, well, if somebody good was in charge.
Well, with Moffat, I got the feeling that he was trying to set up the search for Gallifrey as the arc of the next 50 years, while the Doctor running away from Gallifrey was the arc of the first set. So I really hope he's not in charge in 50 years' time, but I guess we'll see.
He won't be.
Regenerate.
Well, see, I had my idea I'm fully of the opinion that the current series continuity and all this should come to an end and let it lie fallow for like a few years, and then if you want to reboot the show. But my idea was, I always thought that the Doctor's final regeneration should be regenerating back into the first Doctor, and it makes the entire show a loop.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Why not?
Well, the thing is, Moffat's already written in how the Doctor dies. Obviously it can be rewritten and blah, 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 but he's basically said, the Doctor can die.
Yeah, the Trenzalore thing, like a lot of Stephen Moffat's quite good ideas were ripped off from, the crazy writer, Lawrence Miles. They had a whole episode about the Doctor's body and the people fighting over it and wanting it to do things and revisiting his grave and all. And I think it also included a TARDIS that that it started bleeding the inside to the outside, so it got big. But please don't make it an Ouroboros, because that would just be silly.
I don't think that'd be silly. Is there any other sensible way to end the story? Because it's going to end.
Yeah, there's several ways. You can end it like Survival, as in the Doctor's going off to do more shit, or you can kill the Doctor.
And we've seen the Doctor's grave, so he's going to die.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, so he's like, show me what you saw that you wouldn't talk about. Oh, I've seen Trenzalore, we're going to die there and stuff. But, I mean, you're going to die there right this second of the subjective time of your life, but... Okay, an hour from now, when one of your other incarnations does something, or a future incarnation does something, that could completely change that.
And I really don't understand why the Doctor is bothered about his grave anyway. It's like, he's a time traveler.
Everybody dies.
Yeah, he's a time traveler. He should know full aware ages ago when where he's going to die, and it's like...
Guys, it's obvious. He doesn't want to go. I'm sorry.
Oh, so something I have to might complain about the episode today, because I'm sure I'll do some sort of a longer thing where I bitch about lots of sections, which I fully intend to do, but... Capaldi sounded like he had an English accent. And I really hope that's not the case.
I'll have to go back and watch that. I didn't see that myself. So I have to go back and watch that.
That's your problem, Welshy, because you were trying to listen with your eyes.
Capaldi, speaking of eyes, Capaldi got the crazy eyes going, didn't he?
Yes.
Eyebrows of death.
He did not look sane at all.
This is going to be an insane Doctor, and I'm all for that.
Yeah.
You know what? You might like hearing this. He looked like Colin.
Yay.
Yeah.
He had Colin eyes.
And Moffat said that he was going to try and make the Doctor harsher, trickier, much more of a difficult, less likable character. And he wasn't actually saying he was going to try and do Colin, but everything he said made it sound like he was. He said he was going to try and make it more like 4, but from what he was actually saying, it did sound like he was going for the 6th Doctor.
I'd like that, but I'm weird.
I want to know what his costume is.
At the screening with me, there was this little girl. I got there because Rachel had got there really early, so we were like, and there was a huge queue, and there was this little girl. There was a family at the front of 4, and the little girl, she was 5 years old. She was dressed up as Clara. She had a little red bag, and in that little red bag, she had a leaf. And oh my God, she was the most adorable little girl I've ever met. She loved Battlestar Galactica. She was talking non-stop about Doctor Who. Honest to God, guys, just seeing her in this screening would have melted your hearts.
Aww. Well, I'm wearing my 6th Doctor T-shirt to show my love for Team Colin.
I'm wearing my Beware of the Weeping Angels T-shirt, which is Meepa from the Muppets as a weeping angel covering his eyes.
I'm wearing a Dave Matthews Band hoodie with holes on the sleeves, but you guys go ahead. It's cold in my house.
Well, I have an Ace and a Perry action figure, and I'm making them make out.
Would you stop?
I'll need to rewatch that just for the Capaldi bit, because I honestly didn't. It was so much going on. I didn't watch it again because I literally watched it and I'd come home straight from the cinema. So I need to rewatch it on iPlayer just to refresh myself.
You know, speaking of watching again, I gotta say, when Night of the Doctor, I watched that over and over and over again the day it came out. I was so just loved it. And Adventure in Space and Time, I watched that last half hour again after it was over. I went back and I got to see that part again.
What, even the stuff with Troughton? Troughton was terrible.
Just because Gaddis got his buddy Reese in there does not negate it.
No, Reese was my favourite member of the League of Gentlemen, and Troughton's my favourite Doctor, but that was just awful.
He's gonna feel so upset.
I agree there. I love Reese Shearsmith. I think he's incredibly talented, but I just don't think he was right.
No.
Have you seen the photo of Fraser Hines cosplaying as the 2nd Doctor?
No.
There's a picture online, and even he looks more like the actual 2nd Doctor. And even like, Sylvester McCoy in a wig would have looked better and been less distracting.
He would totally be like, "It's not me."
But Day of the Doctor, when it was over, I was just sort of like not in a rush to see it again.
I'm the exact opposite. That I've come home and because I agreed with Zad that I do this, but I've literally got it ready to go. It's in front of me here, ready to go. And as soon as we finish this, I am going to watch it again, and probably a third time.
Do you know what I could have done less of? And I think it is Queen Elizabeth, actually.
Yeah.
I feel kind of bad saying that.
That's tying up the thing from Russell T Davies, though, isn't it? That's actually tying something up, which was left. Amazing. Moffat's tying something up that Davies did.
The entire stuff with Queen Elizabeth just felt like a not very good, very lightweight 10th Doctor story, and please, more all fan service all the time, please.
Oh.
The Zygon stuff just sort of trailed off, didn't it?
It's like, oh, well, don't worry. We're working together now to do something, but we can't really talk about it right now because Clara has to have a moment.
We're going to have
It wasn't even that. It was just the entire storyline just came to a complete screeching halt, and then we're done with it. You know, this was the whole part of the episode, and just suddenly, no, we're done.
Meanwhile, back at the
Threat's
invasion.
over. Yeah, I'm like, what?
Yeah, and the Doctor with the moment and stuff, I got the impression from other episodes that the Doctor set that off like he was in the middle of in an orbit of Gallifrey or in the center of Gallifrey or something, and he sort of. And with this one, he's like, he has time to go and get it, and then he walks for miles in a desert. I'm not entirely sure he was on Gallifrey, and
yeah, they don't make that clear.
That wasn't handled well.
It'd be really great if there's an outtake where someone comes into that barn and says, "Get out of my lawn."
Well, no, the thing with that is, like you said, it's that whatever it was, the moment, whatever, like that would destroy, it ended up obviously destroyed Gallifrey and the Daleks, and he didn't want the TARDIS to see it. That's why he went there on his own, completely sort of like away. I'm assuming he did what he did to it, and it could actually destroy what he wanted to destroy. I just assume that. But the reason he was there, in the middle of nowhere alone, symbolizing, how alone he is, and how barren his feelings are, whatever, and the fact that he didn't want the TARDIS to see it. That's why, and I think the Rose projection said that.
Yeah, but the weapon that can destroy, if you can make it destroy individual things from far away, surely it would have better aiming capacity than to destroy all the good Time Lords and all the bad ones at the same time.
Yeah, I was wondering, I was waiting to find out how this weapon worked, and they're like, well...
He wanted to destroy the Time Lords because of what they were... I can't remember now, End of Time, it's kind of blocked all that, but what were they trying to...
But we discover in this one that the Time Lords weren't trying to do that. That was simply King Rassilon and his idiots. And so the Doctor could have aimed at
Rassilon.
Well, Rassilon in name only.
Yeah, I saw your video. I was in it.
Yeah, so you agreed fully.
I completely agree.
Of course,
all he did is destroy that character.
Well, yeah, because my mom said, well, wait, Daleks survived, didn't they? I'm like, well, yeah, Daleks always survive.
I had an idea.
So it wasn't a very good weapon.
I actually had an idea to how to get the Time Lords continuity worked out, because I am firmly of the opinion that the Time Lords were only ever done properly in the War Games, because when they were literally space gods, pretty much, and they could do anything with a thought, and there was no way in hell they would be defeated by the Daleks. The Daleks would have had to become like great old ones from Babylon 5 or something to take them on. So I'm thinking that the Time Lords from the War Games might actually be the Time War might actually be earlier in Time Lord history than the Time Lords of the War Games. There is nothing that says that the Time Lords that the Doctor meets have to be in the right order.
That's a good point.
You should honestly pitch that to Martha. He would love that.
It's like they become, because for anyone from the audience, I don't know if you've seen the War Games, but the Doctor spends 9 episodes trying to stop this big thing, can't stop it, sends a distress call, the Time Lords locate him, and he then immediately runs to the TARDIS, but the Time Lord starts slowing down time from across the universe, and then they arrive, but just at the time he gets into the TARDIS, and they've shut down the TARDIS from the outside, and then they dematerialize everyone and sort of disintegrate all the villains, remove them from history entirely. It's just like, these guys are...
But sorry, just to let the listeners know, I know the answer to this, but do they use a magic gauntlet?
No, they don't need to. They can do it with a thought.
I know!
I'm talking to the audience.
Where's the glove from?
They don't need a lightning glove. There is no... Okay, I saw The Last Day, The Fall of Arcadia little video, and it was,
I didn't like that.
I didn't really like it either.
It looked like a fun tutorial for a poor FPS shooter, but the Time Lords from the War Games would not need that. It's like trying to make the Time Lords from the War Games take part in a war. You'd end up with...
It could be argued that those people in The Last Day aren't Time Lords, they're just Gallifreyans.
Oh, well, yeah, they are, but generally the Time Lords from the War Games couldn't be involved in the Time War because it would end up like the Q and the Grey. It would be like having the Q from Star Trek getting into a war, because these guys are basically techno-gods.
Well, I always, for the longest time before End of Time, where all the silliness happened, that was the impression I got about the Time War, that the Daleks technologically had gotten to the point that, the Emperor Dalek and whatnot had gotten to a point where time, you fuck up, you fight with time. The paradoxes and the screw-ups and all that gets to a point where it's so incomprehensible that it's a kind of war that cannot... Remember the early first season, they're like, the lesser races had no idea what was going on, but the higher entities were deeply affected. Like, what was it? The one with, the second episode, the one with the ghosts from across...
The Gelf.
The Gelf, yeah. It gave me the idea that this was this big cosmic shit going on that was incomprehensible, that nobody else even realized was going on. But no, that didn't stick.
Stephen Moffat and Russell T Davies' imagination does not stretch far enough to actually considering a war of that type.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like, there's probably races, like, still out there that are in complete existence flux. Like, maybe Daleks went back to the beginning of their planet and tried to get some resources from there. The Time Lords followed them and destroyed their planet. But then someone reversed that and someone reversed that again. So there could be whole entire races living in a moment of quantum flux.
Yeah, and that's not how they decided to show the war. They instead, yeah, they would, but they decided to show it as a, hey, look, let's show some stuff blowing up and people screaming and running away in slow motion because we're going to try and make this look impressive for the trailer, even though we don't have the budget to actually do it justice.
And that's not a time war. That's just a war.
Yeah, and the Time Lords would not have any chance of being crushed in a war.
No, because what was it? The Sontarans tried that shit. It didn't really work out very well for them.
Yeah, and those
they
were...
weren't allowed in the war, were they?
Well,
Sontarans. In one episode, series 4, they complained about not being allowed to fight in the war.
No, we're talking about the invasion of time.
Yeah, the Sontarans, they tried to invade Gallifrey. It didn't work out very well for them.
Although that was partially because of the Doctor. Those were still the ruined post-War Games Time Lords. I'm going to keep sticking to this.
You know what? You know what I just realized? So, okay, right now, right this second, Gallifrey is... The entire planet is in freeze on one instant in time in a pocket dimension somewhere. Does that imply that every other Time Lord who was not on the planet at the time is still active? Which means that technically the Master's still alive.
It also would also mean Romana, because unless, and that's one that Night of the Doctor makes a mess of. If the Eighth Doctor stories are now screen canon, and I mean, right, the Big Finish one. If those are now screen canon, that would mean that Romana was Lady President of Gallifrey.
According to I don't know if it was a book or what, but they suggested that when the war went bad, they got Rassilon out of his tower. For some reason, not letting him have his full power where he could have blinked the Daleks out of existence. And Rassilon's first act was to have Romana executed for mishandling the war.
Aww.
Allegedly.
And it sucks.
Fuck that!
I love Romana, but that actually, narratively I could get behind that.
I was kind of dying. I was kind of dying to see Lalla Ward just for a few minutes today.
I would have liked that as well. But yeah, I love, Romana.
The fact that Eccleston didn't even come back for the regeneration. I hate that.
They shouldn't have cast him. Eccleston, apart from being completely ill-suited to the role of the Doctor, you need someone who at least will be open to the possibility of having it be an ongoing thing to some degree in their life. It's just necessary.
I guess we've come back around to the big, at least for me, the big problem was that the Ninth Doctor this was meant for him. This was meant for the new Who Doctors. I mean, you could tell.
And if it did happen, I would have bitched about that too.
Well, you bitch about everything.
Well, I honestly, I got really, really irritated by Stephen Moffat saying that the show, this is not going to look back, this is going to look forward to the next 50 years. And it's just like, no, the point of these anniversaries is not to look forward to the next 50 years. That is the point of every single new episode, look to the future. The point of this is to celebrate the past. And that's the way that the anniversaries, whenever there's been a show on, have always been. It's a love letter to what has gone before. You get to celebrate the future with every new episode. Give the past its due.
I still think, of all of them, the Three Doctors did it the best.
This is the first one now, right? Yeah.
The first one, yeah.
3. 1, 2, and 3. Yeah,
A dandy and a clown.
Of all of them, I think the Three Doctors is probably the best anniversary thing in the entirety of Doctor Who.
It's a shame.
Pretty much.
A shame they couldn't get Eccleston. It'd be, just imagine if they got McGann.
Yeah, McGann would have been fine. McGann,
At the end, generates into Eccleston's character. But
Well, okay, you say McGann would have been fine, but I think, and this was an anniversary for the 50th, but it was also kids have actually grown up with this show. There are people who started out as small children who are now, driving at this point, and they've grown up with Doctor Who. So I think this was meant to be their anniversary. And if you put Paul McGann in there, we would have known who he was, and we would have had a connection to him, but it would have just been as alien as John Hurt. I mean,
then at least we'd have one part of the audience who are not having it alien. But also, I would save that for the 10th anniversary of New Who in 2 years' time.
Wow, God, it really is going to be 10 years.
The 50th anniversary should be the celebration of all Who, not just New Who.
I still remember violently trying to get people to watch this show in 2005.
I remember watching the leaked version of Rose.
Yeah, me too. Oh God, do you remember? Because it didn't even have the new theme song. They were using the Fourth Doctor's theme on it. I remember that was awesome.
I remember when that episode got leaked and it basically got trashed. And, I can remember Judy Gardner coming out and saying, we spent a lot of time and effort on this, give it a chance. I remember that. There was a lot of uproar about that. And then, of course, in the very first episode when Rose is walking through the basement and Graham Norton's voiceover came on, that freaked everybody out because, it happened again when Matt Smith in, Time
of Angels.
Time of Angels, that was it, yeah. Graham Norton again, when Matt's giving his speech about how you should never put anyone in a trap, Graham Norton's head appears on screen. It's like, watch Graham Norton later! For God's sake, Norton! You just like a final bit, everybody sort of give your impression, one person at a time. Zag, go.
There's parts, I have serious complaints about. There's parts that I really liked, and admittedly most of the parts that I really liked were the sops to the classic Doctor Who. Most stuff I didn't like is most of my complaints I have for New Who. I'm sure I'll do some sort of a thing about it. I'm talking with Last Angry Geek about maybe doing a crossover on it. We'll see.
Nash.
I think complaints is too strong a word for me. There are parts of it I really, really liked, and they were really wonderful, and the ending with Tom was just beautiful. I loved that part, even though it was so short. But I guess the word that sums it up for me is flawed, and everything has flaws, nothing's perfect, but it felt wrong. It felt off, and it was tangible, and it kind of made the whole thing just uneasy for me.
Okay.
Well, it was apparent that everybody had a lot of fun putting it together. You could tell that even just watching. And I had some big plot issues, but I'm a big story person, so I am always gonna. But I really did like the big, oh no, it's not just 3 of them, it's all 12. No, it's 13. And that was pretty cool. The idea that okay, it's all about New Who, but there was all of the Doctors worked together to do the one thing that I think all of them would have done if asked, and that is to save Gallifrey. So, I'll probably rewatch it too.
Me? I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it wasn't perfect. I didn't expect it to be, because I went in just wanting that fun. I got that. Obviously, I had the cinema experience as well, which really helped. But I just really enjoyed it. I thought Matt was awesome. I thought it was nice to have David. It was the kind of send. I know Zari doesn't like David's Doctor, but it was the kind of send up I wish he'd have had. because it's what soured me on David Tennant's Doctor was his ending, and this actually makes me feel a lot better about that ending, because they mock those words that have haunted me for a long time. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to be watching it as soon as we sign off.
Cool. And that has been Lesbian Talk. Now, we're not going to do the dictionary, or if we do, I'll just come on and record a little bit myself. But want to thank, you guys are now both honorary lesbians, Nash and Welshy. Aren't you so happy? Chicks love lesbians. You can't lose.
I'm a lesbian now. I'm going to get a t-shirt with that.
So from all of us to all of you, thank you and good night.